friends. We are starting a new game called End of Line. It's an interactive graphic novel, so type of game where we have to make this decisions. And well, live with the consequences. And basically, it plays after a climate crisis apocalypse. So yeah, too real maybe. But let's see if we get sad. And I wonder, I feel like I read somewhere that like it's very likely that characters die or something like that based on your decisions. Maybe it's also a little bit of resource management. I'm not sure. Maybe it's only decisions. We'll see. Nora, but mother, you can't give up. I assume this is Nora and this is mother. What is this? Oh, okay. And I guess that's to read, yeah. Nora glares at me, her face rigid with anger. I don't answer straight away. I look out for the gap between the hangings and the blinding light that strikes the arid ground. So I think it's like super hot, like sun too close to earth, melting. Yeah. I cannot go out before nightfall anymore. If I attempt it, I will fall and shut down by the breath of the gins. I hardly recognize the landscapes of my childhood in this barren wasteland. Our lands have always been arid, but before there were oases and a semblance of peace, journeys were always attended by sun. That time has passed, long ago. Today the dance of the burning winds is fiercer and fiercer. I hear it like the senseless rhythm of dissonant death. What? And I know I have no time for falling into melancholy. I have to explain my decision to my daughter. Matriarch. Nora, do you remember the fable? The lion, the panther, the tahouri, and the jackal? My question disconcerts her. Her anger abates a little. Yes, mother. So tell me, what lesson do you think you can learn from it today? Tell me, I don't know the story. Respect prevents her from expressing her frustration, but I can almost hear the exasperated growl that tries to escape her. It makes me smile. Her fiery temper has always steered my affection. She recites. The lion, the panther, the tahouri, and the jackal had to share out their kill. The jackal offers to do it and makes 4 equal shares. But the lion is unhappy with his share and kills the jackal. So that tahouri offers to share out the kill and gives half to the lion. Okay, I'm gonna Google what a tahouri is. And I'm gonna make, I don't know if other people know what it is, but wait, there's a Bobby tahouri. I'm gonna research and I'll make an edit, and you'll see a tahouri right here maybe. She stops. That was a little fast, and you forgot the end. The end? Okay, that's a jackal. That's a lion. That's a panther. When a lion asks the tahouri who taught him the method of sharing, she frowns. Of course she remembers. The tahouri answers that it was the blow that killed the jackal that taught him. Tell me, my daughter, would you rather be the jackal or the tahouri in that story? She shakes her dark mane. I'd prefer to be the lion, of course. That was not the question, daughter. Don't you agree, mother? I prefer the panther. You disappoint me. Oh, jeez. I mean, the panther is just like chilling, right? Like not. Um, that's the most desirable position, of course. Yeah, out of trouble, and still gets a share. The panther, forgotten by everyone. She may be forgotten, but she does not submit. We have neither the claws nor the fangs of the lion. In any event, power is a curse. Let the others brawl over the scraps. Let us take our small share without fuss and keep ourselves safe. Yes, that's me. Let me just live in peace. I beckon her to come and help me up. She comes immediately, and we take a few steps across the worn rugs that cover the floor. Anyway, it's been a very long while since there were any lions or tahouris or jackals. Tahouri? Tahouri? I don't know. That's true, but I have something else on my mind right now. How old is your son, Nora? He'll be 7 next spring. So many years we've passed trying to leave this desert. Yes, mother. How many companions have we lost? She looks away. 21. I stroke her hand. I'm not a monster. She hides her sorrow, but I know that each one of their names is carved on her heart. We cannot continue like this. Our tribe is no more than an exhausted huddle. Which is slow, and the heat will kill us all in the end. And do you truly believe that staying here will save you? We can certainly survive for a few moons. Your task during that time will be to lead the most stalwart among us to a more welcoming place. But mother, I don't want to leave you. Listen to me, Nora. I've reached the end of my journey, but you haven't. She tries to interrupt, but I raise my hand for silence. You and Rafik, you'll choose from the volunteers. Yiza, Sailia, and her brother Amina will certainly go. You'll also take your son and your husband, Camille. He will be your guide to find a better land. Camille, our guide? I allow her a few seconds to digest this information. Yes, Nora, you have all the qualities of a great war chief, but to survive this time needs a panther, not a lion. She nods. I understand, mother. I don't. I take her hands. Of course you understand. You didn't choose him by chance after all. Is he the panther? Or is Nora the panther for not taking the position? Yes, perhaps I've always known. Good, so go and get him. I need to speak to him. Then gather everyone together. I'll announce my decision at nightfall. Nora leaves my tent. I sit back down again to await the coming of the gentle-hearted outlander. He's an intensely just man, and he's also the only one among us who knows the ways into the north. The only one who could navigate amongst the wreckage of this world adrift. A few minutes later he enters, swathed in the blue robe that Nora made for him. Camille's poise has increased with these last years. The journey suits him. He comes toward me with deference. Deference? Oh god. I suppose Nora has explained why I've summoned you. Yes, she has, matriarch. So, will you agree to guide the company through the remains of this world? His gaze is far away for several seconds. I have no idea what life outside the desert is like now, nor if there's any life left. It's true that we've had no contact with the outside for several years. The last we heard, wars and epidemics had struck all the cities. That was more than 10 years ago. There can't be much remaining outside the desert. I fear to find nothing but ruins. He takes a moment to consider. Where should we go, in your opinion? I suggest that you return to where you came from. Our lands have become uninhabitable. I'm afraid that mine won't be any better, at least not for much longer. Each year the seasons are hotter and drier. That will have to stop someday. He says nothing but gives a little shrug. Won't it? Well, not necessarily. Explain yourself. There was a theory when I was young. It was called the Venus theory. What is it? If global warming reaches a certain magnitude, there are multiple tipping points which could lead the planet into a path where the climate becomes out of control. He pauses, looking for the right words. That's to say that the phenomena triggered by the global warming would continue to add carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and so would keep increasing the warming exponentially, and we could do nothing to stop it. The greenhouse effect will become so strong that it will eventually boil the oceans, making all life impossible. I'm silent, shaken, in spite of myself, by this apocalyptic vision. They think that's what happened on Venus millions of years ago. The Venus theory. He nods. And you believe we are on the path to the same thing? I don't know. It's a very striking theory, but I think it's quite unlikely. I encourage him to continue. From what I understand, the climate would be more likely to stabilize once the carbon emissions had ceased. And in fact, I believe that's where we are now. So you're optimistic? Not really, because even if we concede that life on Earth is not in danger, the climate stabilization will take time, and I don't know what will remain of the human race after the next century. No matter what, life has become impossible here. But other habitable places must still exist. I refuse to believe that the 21st century will signal the end of humanity. It is pretty unlikely, saying that there is still a decade before the 22nd century. Perhaps we still got some surprises ahead of us. Whatever the case, it's time to see what we can do to adapt to this new world. As you say, we've reached the end of a cycle. One story finishes, another begins. A story that's for you to write now. In end of line, certain situations can lead to change of narrator. Oh, there's a lion, a panther, and a jackal. The sum of your decisions can influence the identity of the next narrator. Most of the choices offered to you favor one of the following archetypes. Oh, okay. The lion favors the direct approach and confrontation, seeks to arm themselves and strikes first, is suspicious of others, always expects the worst, is ruthless. The panther avoids confrontation, prefers to flee danger, displays doubt, doesn't like to stay in one place, sacrifices themselves for others. Wait, isn't that a jackal? Or is that... Okay, that looks like a hyena? Okay, I don't know. Seeks out social interaction, eagerly accumulates wealth, strives to establish exchanges, will manipulate others, prefers the sedentary lifestyle. I want to manipulate. That seems like the the best, maybe, for survival. Choose wisely. I don't know. It will soon be a year since we left the clan and the matriarch behind us. It feels like an eternity. We've crossed lands and seas until we were worn to the bone. Now that we've stopped walking, it's oddly silent. There's no sound but the wind and the crunch of the grains of sand between our teeth. Okay, there's a scale. It's like we have too many people for the amount of water we have. Someone has to die. Or we find water. The sky is red. I wonder if that's like water or like just food and resources in general. Or if that means nothing. I don't know. Or is it? It's so hot that it feels red. When did it stop being blue? There's this mine of stones. A religious relict, probably. Maybe my reading comprehension and stuff will get better. I don't believe so. But maybe the more I read, the less I stumble. Hopefully. The ancient road that I guide our little company along used to be troubled by pilgrims. But today, I have no use for religions and gods. The only thing that matters to me is our survival, especially that of Sam, the only child in our company. My child. I checked the map entrusted to me by a poor woman a few weeks ago. She said that this was the only road we could still take. This road should take us north to a more welcoming place, toward the land where I was born and that I left more than 20 years ago. I don't know how much it has altered. Everything has changed so fast. I hope that we'll find a place fit to live, where we can settle in peace. Rafiq breaks the silence with several groans as he unburdens himself of his pack. He allows himself a mouthful of water and grumbles under his breath before turning to me. I'm dead. Yes, we're all worn out. Rafiq gives a small smile. I don't know. Nora doesn't seem to be suffering too much. He jerks his chin at Nora, who'd I'd agreed to marry over 10 years ago. I smile back. Nora never seems to be suffering too much. You're forgetting the day she gave birth to your offspring. A laugh escapes me. Men! Sorry. I've forgotten nothing. That was precisely the day when I realized that she was stronger than you'll ever be, Rafiq. Sure, that's right. And in the meantime, it's me who's lugging the equivalent of her weight around on my back. I roll my eyes. Then you get sick of complaining? Never. That's also me. We should have exchanged you for a mule when we had the chance. Rafiq laughs. That would have been one of your rare rational decisions. My decisions are always perfectly rational. If that was the case, you'd have decided to marry me. Stop flirting. Now it's my turn to laugh. You're not in Nora's league and you know it. Would you have accepted that? I flirt back. What? Oh. Oh, interesting. Okay. Of course not. What am I supposed to do with a shrimp like you? And anyway, you're right. Nora's the strongest of us. She'll bury us all. His words pull me back to the harsh reality of our quest. The good humor has passed like a too late breeze. No, not all. Not Sam. He grips my shoulder kindly and answers with a solemn face, as though making me a promise. No, not Sam, of course. We join the others to set up the camp. I head toward Inaya and so on to help them get settled in. The couple had recently joined us. They've been trying to survive as best as they could in the ruins of the edge of a big city. They were fortunate to meet us. We avoid going near the cities in general. These days, violence and sickness hold sway there. The path we're following crosses small villages instead, long deserted. Inaya and so on wanted to join us. Our life of traveling is hard, but I know that it's the only course. The droughts and the heat waves, which forced us to leave our lands, have continued to hit more and more regions. Those rare places where it's still possible to subsist will inevitably disappear. Oh my god. Everywhere we go, there's no other choice but to leave. Since I couldn't abandon the couple to certain death, I agreed that they could come with us. They're still young, but they have been courageous and grateful so far. They're gentle, considerate people. Sometimes I get the feeling that they're too fragile for this existence. They're gonna die. Sam comes over to cling to my legs as I cover our tent to protect us from the heat. I ruffle his hair with affection. Can I drink, Daddy? Yes, of course. I give him my flask. We're not going to die of thirst, right? Good question. No. We've still got reserves, and soon we're going to cross an old river. There'll be some water for sure. Come here, I'll show you. I put him on my knee and show him the map. It's a worn old paper scattered with lettering in language I don't understand, but the lines across the surface are still readable. You can still even see some landmarks. Some I think I recognize, like the mound of stones that used to shelter a religious symbol that we're camping near today. Sometimes the lines separate and meet, branching decisions we will soon have to make. We trace the fragile lines with our fingertips as they fade and reappear across the tiers and creases of the map. Sam's small hand and mine discover the possible futures and the tracks that await us. Will they be strewn with pitfalls or pleasant surprises? Probably a bit of both. Whatever the case, these lines guide us toward the hope of a more welcoming land. We cling to that hope, but in truth, we have no idea what we will find there at the end of the map. Where the lines end. That's the game! Chapter 1. Wake up! Wake up! Oh my god! Is that blood? What's going on? The noonday sun has shortened the shadows. Toward the horizon, the dazzling, relentless glare draws salt and water to my eyes. Salt and water. I try to swallow. My throat is like sandpaper. The water is precious. There is not enough. All of a sudden, I think of my father, of his life of before. Did he know? Okay, I don't think it was just red. I was like, is that all suddenly blood? He leans against the bar, as usual. On the bar, a double espresso in a disposable cup. Did he know the price to be paid for those few drops of bitter petrol black liquid? As I come through the glass door, he absently swallows another mouthful of coffee. He seems suddenly preoccupied by a tiny stain on the cuff of his new shirt, impeccably ironed, made in some country at the other end of the planet. My throat is dry. There's not enough water. Did he know what awaited us? I'm assailed by a wave of disgust, of anger. I go over to the bar ready to blow? Like, blow up? And be angry? I wait a few seconds on the threshold trying to calm myself. No, calm myself. It's never good to approach, like, angry. It's him who sees me, who recognizes me. He raises his eyes from his shirt cuff and his gaze meets mine. He smiles at me. A smile bursting with paternal love, unshakable. I lean on the bar next to him. I don't know what to say. I don't know where to begin. What are you doing? For a moment, he doesn't understand. As you see, I'm having a coffee. He shows me his cup. I don't know if I should read amusement or condescension in the calm, patient voice he uses. This is the day you were born. I'm going to get a call from your mother soon. Without thinking, he pulls his smartphone from his jacket pocket, places it gently on the bar, as if it were the most precious thing he possessed. I'm a little surprised. For as long as I can recall, my father never owned a smartphone. The phone vibrates oh my god! That word. As if it felt that we were looking at it. My father automatically looks down at the screen. Aren't you answering that? Shouldn't you be at work or with mom? Aren't you answering that? That's what I would ask, I guess. He shrugs. It's not the call I'm waiting for. It's probably not important. In the face of my bewilderment, he feels obliged to add, I'm sure you must wonder if the world I live in hasn't gone completely crazy. I give in to anger. I let him continue. It's like this all the time, round the clock. We've all got our minds on our day-to-day problems. Sometimes we look up from our screens. We look around us and we wonder if it's normal. And then we go back into our tunnels again, pulled from pillar to post. The smartphone lets out another vibrating wave. A subtle blend of newborn's cry and the ringing of a bell. Instinctively, he picked up the phone this time, taps the screen for a few seconds before bringing his attention back to me. Still nothing important? His astonishment suggests that he'd done it by reflex without really noticing. No, it's... He looks at the screen again. He's already forgotten. It was work. Nothing urgent. Anyway, I won't be available this afternoon, and they won't be seeing me anytime soon. I intend to make the most of my paternity leave. A brother? He's lost in thought for a few moments, a smile lighting up his face. To tell the truth, I didn't want a child that much, but Camille, my angel, now that you're here, I have no regrets. Wait, what? I'm so confused. I'm the child? I'd make the same mistakes over and over to be able to see you live and grow again. He puts his hand gently on my shoulder. The telephone vibrates again. The sound is slightly different this time. He can't stop himself from looking at it. Hell, it's the battery. This thing discharges faster and faster. It's a real problem. Dad, we're dying. We're dying of hunger and thirst. Your children, your grandchildren. I guess it's like a dream. We look each other deep in the eyes. This time, I got his full attention. Camille, I'm sorry. Forgive me. He gives me a small, resigned smile. He finishes his coffee in one swallow and replaces the cup on its saucer. I notice the sugar lump still wrapped in gaudy paper. I glance over all these blind people, invisible, transparent. Suddenly, I realize that my father, with his suit, his coffee, and his superficial concerns, is part of that crowd. I sweep my eyes over the room again. I try to put myself in this place of these people who truly don't understand what could be so absurd about sipping a coffee in a bar as the planet becomes slowly and inexorably inhospitable. I don't have the strength or the wish to get angry. I know that many of them did what they could, did their best, just like my father. I tell myself that maybe if they'd started trying to change things sooner, they'd have had a chance of success. I turn to my father. Dad! Wake up! Wake up. A hand on my shoulder, firm but gentle. She shakes me softly. I open my eyes. Nora leans over me, her face silhouetted against the red light. Camille, it's time. I sit up, wearily. It's well into the afternoon. It will soon be time to break camp. Nora is already up again, her back turned to me. I took her in my arms. We need those moments. It's a simple joy, but one that could be too easy to forget. We remain entwined a few instants. Then slowly, reluctantly, we separate. She will go to wake the rest of the company while I assemble our meager possessions. There's not much to assemble. A few worn bags, some basic tools, knife, mallet, ropes, stakes, our tent, and our precious flasks, soon empty. I emerge from the tent and go to join Sam beneath the burning late afternoon sun. His gaze is far away. So I guess they travel in the night and give all the water I have left to see the world through his eyes, even for just a few moments. To see just how different it is to the one I see. He seems so calm, peaceful, seated in a nest of mostly worn fabrics. His little shape silhouetted against the vermilion sky waves placidly like a fragile promise. Our eyes meet and a pure fleeting joy lights up his face. I brush my hand through his hair. He stands up, stretches, and rests his head against my chest, all the time watching the horizon. Do we have to leave, Daddy? Yes, my angel, we have to leave. I'm sorry. Forgive me. In the end of lines, you will have to organize several camps for your company of travelers. Inaya has dipped into our provisions to make a hot meal for the company. At the beginning of each camp, the company used their resources to feed themselves. The narrator then takes stock of the resources according to how many characters in the company. Our resources are shrinking, but we still have enough to hold out. Currently, the resources and the number of people in the company are balanced. Oh, okay. If your resources are too scarce, some members of the group may leave the company. Okay, I suggest an expedition to explore their surroundings. The narrator tells you which characters are exhausted and cannot participate in the expedition. Inaya is exhausted. Sam is exhausted. You must then choose which member of the group you send out on the expedition. The characters that you choose will have to rest and cannot participate in an expedition at the next camp. Warning, a character may be tired for various reasons, even if they haven't been on the last expedition. I sent Swan. You can now add other people to the expedition or confirm the group as it is and launch the expedition. I sent Nora. The scavenging team is complete. I think 2 people is fine. The number of people sent and their state of fatigue determines the amount of resources gathered during the expedition. The expedition finds the riverbed, but it's dry. Its course has been deviated in an old irrigation tank, which does still contain a little water. Nice! We got water. But why is it... Oh, God. The team filters and boils the reclaimed water. The resources which have been collected are added to your provisions. Be aware that certain situations... Okay, wait. We have more... Sorry. We have more water now, so I guess we have... Oh, it's heavier because we have more resources than people. Okay, now I understand. Be aware that certain situations and decisions will not be available to you if the balance between your resources and the number of travels is unfavorable. Okay, a few minutes later, everything is packed up. We're ready to leave. The horizon shimmers with vivid shifting colors from the sinking sun. I contemplate the spectacle, as magnificent as it's strange, searching for some clue that will allow me to predict the weather that awaits us in the next few hours. The wind has fallen, but this lull may be deceptive. I look over our small company. If one thing is sure, it's that we're all travel-weary. Inaya and Soan in particular, who seem at the end of their strength. They're not used to the forced marches yet. That will come, they don't lack courage. In the meantime, I could offer to share out some of the weight of their packs among the other travelers. Even Rafik, who carries the heaviest load, looks exhausted. We haven't eaten for several days and it's getting harder and harder to find water. He also seems to be surveying the land in quest of information on what is coming. His experience is always welcome. Perhaps he's noticed a detail that's escaped me. Sam and Nora are chatting. They're still the most unwavering of the company. Nora seems to suffer, not from hunger nor from fatigue. Never seems to... Oh my god, what am I reading? And technically, we all do what we can so that Sam is fed in priority. I go over to the new people, I guess. They're preparing to shoulder their bulky packbacks and I signal them to wait. They watch me patiently despite their exhaustion. I usually speak to Inaya because her French is quite good. Someone speaks Spanish better, but I'm not very comfortable with that language. I'm sorry. We'll take a longer break as soon as possible. Okay. I would do a French accent if I could. Thanks for everything you're doing, Camille. We'll probably already be dead without your help. Perhaps, perhaps not. I settle for a shrug of my shoulders. We're going to relieve you of some of your load and share it out among the others for today. I can tell if someone wants to object, but he reconsiders. Inaya is already undoing her bag. I'll help you. Alright. The others join us. I try to share out the load as fairly as possible. Rafik groans a little for the look of things, but I know he's far from reaching his limits. When we've finished, I lead our departure. The sky is clear, but I fear that the wind might shift suddenly. Lift. What am I reading? As it did yesterday. If that's the case, we'll have nowhere to shelter on this dry, rocky trail. We could opt for a detour to the south, which would allow us to find this asphalt road. We'd have more chance of finding a shelter going that way. On the other hand, the weather might be clement, it's hard to tell. We keep going straight on. After a glance behind me to check everyone is ready, I set off down the little dirt track. We've been walking for several hours when the wind picks up. Our progress quickly becomes difficult. Oh. We're forced to protect our faces from the dust, which stings our cheeks and blinds us. With the sun beginning to set, it's going to get more and more difficult to stay on course. I hope it won't last too long, but there's nothing to suggest that it won't get any worse. On the contrary. I turned back to the convoy, Inaya shouting behind Soan, who himself was having trouble staying upright. They won't get much further at this pace. If the storm really picks up, we'll have no chance but to abandon them? Oh my god. I cannot resolve myself to do that and decide to head full south. Oh man. We'll have more luck finding shelter in that direction. Oh man. I wave my arms to indicate my decision to rest of the company. Rafik nods that he's understood the message. The march is a bit easier in this direction, but I continue to scan our surroundings, looking for a shelter, a ruin, even a ditch that could protect us from the wind until it drops. This country isn't as welcoming as we hoped, but it's still better than where we've come from. Yet, in the first days, when we finally landed after all the sacrifices we had to make to get here, we'd regained a whisper of hope. Not so long ago. I remember we'd been skirting the coast for several days. The crossing had been a nightmare we'd have preferred to forget. We've been preparing for demanding times, but none of us has expected to have to overcome such an ordeal. When we finally landed, we were no longer a tribe nor a company, just four survivors. I talked to Sam a lot. I made up stories. I wanted to protect him as much as possible from the relentless violence of this world. But I believe that mainly it was him who helped me. If it hadn't been for him, I'd have given up a long time ago. Nora, Rafik, Sam and I, we've wandered along the devastated beaches. The ocean had invaded the old coastal villages. Considering the amount of destruction, it hadn't happened gently. Impossible to tell if it was a result of a single devastating tsunami or of successive storms, but only ruins remained. And everything led us to believe it wasn't over yet. The sea was calm on our arrival, but the bleak deserted scenes that we crossed prompted us to be careful. Most surprising were the crabs. The beaches were covered. Food! Everywhere they teemed over the ruins of the flooded buildings. Sometimes we'd been hypnotized by inanimate objects in the distance. Their shapes seemed so to distort with frantic, grotesque gasping. One day, suddenly, the clouds spread apart and a pale blue sky appeared. I remember it as if it was once more before my eyes. The colors that until then had seemed missing from the coastal landscape begin to glitter. Sam takes my hand and points to the crab-covered rock nearby. Look, Daddy, they're blue! And yes, in the sun the crabs are a radiant cyan blue, with shades of green on the shell, and their pincers ranging from orange to scarlet depending on the specimen. For a long while we marveled at the beauty of the scene. Hey Daddy, do you know why there's so many? It's hard to say. At some point these crabs must have found themselves without predators. That must be why they've been able to reproduce so much. What does reproduce mean? I guess maybe it's linked to the disappearance of the birds. I don't add that they're probably a species of scavengers. Anyway, we know what we're having for dinner. Are we stopping soon? A little bit further on, I can make out the shimmer of the whitened walls of a half-submerged village. Yes. Do you see the ruins over there? Sam nods. We'll walk as far as there and then we'll take a break, okay? As we pass the first wave-beaten salt-eaten stones of the town, we're surprised to see human figures on some of the roofs. humans alive. I count about 10 at most. They watch us unmoving. They don't seem aggressive, but still, we remain on our guard. As we get closer, I realize that it's difficult to identify them. The figures are bundled up in shapeless rags. Their age is unclear. Is that a child or an old woman I can see there? Perhaps a small boy? It's impossible to tell. It's even more troubling when we notice that they're moving away from us as we move forward, so that they maintain a distance which doesn't allow us to glimpse their eyes, just the eerie shadows of hollowed sockets. Daddy, why are they backing away? Maybe it's a trap. Do you think? Yes, I'm wondering if they're not waiting for the right moment to pounce on us. Nora smiles. Ha! Let them come, though. We'll introduce them to Rafik. She jerks her thumb at our imposing companion. Rafik lost much of his magnificence during the crossing, but despite everything his form remains impressive. Maybe too impressive, actually. Yet, under his gruff exterior, Rafik has always been good with people. He's got a knack for quickly gaining people's trust, and his imposing build makes him rather reassuring. Rafik, do you want to go and talk to them? Stay here, we should ignore them and stay together. Go talk to them! Sure, if I manage to catch one. Choose the one who studied foreign languages while you're at it. Rafik laughs. Maybe I should go instead? No, don't worry. We're joking, Camille. He grabs my shoulder. It will be fine. Rafik takes a deep breath and advances on one of the groups with a firm tread. Halfway he makes a friendly gesture towards them. To my surprise, he seems to manage to start a conversation. Rafik puts his bag at his feet and pulls out several objects. I can't make out what they are, but he attracts the attention of the others, who draw nearer. I mean, in the beginning it was like his picture of like the connection making, right? And manipulating. So that's why. Give us your stuff. After a few minutes of discussion, Rafik turns to us and invites us to join him. When we get there, the inhabitants have moved away. It looked like that went quite well, did it? Not bad. They're interested in our fabrics. Seeing how they're dressed, that's not surprising. Haha, yeah, their only clothes stores are down there. He points at the water, from which only the tallest building of the former village emerge. Most of the clothes didn't stand up to salt water, so they're buck naked, so to speak. I see. Did you give them something? I put aside far too much fabric to prepare the tent. I figure we could spare it. You did well. Nora doesn't appear to agree. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed her frown of disapproval. We're going to fish out some more usual stuff anyway. Useful. My gaze stops on the church bell tower, battered by the waves. Fish? Rafik laughs. Yeah, we dive down there and find what we want. Sam seems very impressed. Do you know how to swim that deep? Me? No, but your father. They turn to look at me. I shrug. Sam's hopping with glee. It's the first time he's shown such strong emotions since the crossing. It's been impossible to get more than a few words out of him, and even less a smile in the last few days. Seeing his eyes sparkle again, I cannot help feeling a bit relieved. Yeah, okay, it's worth a try. Let's start by finding a good place to dive from. He pointed out a spot to me. Follow me, okay. We sat up on a roof edge. The water looks clear at the surface, but it's impossible to see the bottom. A woman with stringy white hair brings Rafik an old patched-up diving mask and a pair of unmatched fins. Sam bombards me with questions about these strange objects while I try my best to adjust them to my feet. The woman gives us instructions in a Spanish too rapid for us to comprehend, but her movements allow us to guess where to begin our search. I begin my exploration. I quickly realize that the fences, decrepit as they are, provide a crucial advantage. The currents made unpredictable by the remains of buildings and street fixtures are too chaotic to hope to swim without equipment. After attempting a few dives, I begin to accustom myself and manage to limit my movement to hold my breath for longer. The light fades fast with the depth. I've still got enough visibility to make out the surreal backdrop of a paved undersea road. Wrecks of vehicles remaining there have transformed into arthropod shelters. I'm reminded of a time where the seaside resorts were packed with noisy tourists. The bottom is more than 4 meters down, but I don't need to go that far. I try a few openings, windows and doors, trying to find a promising spot. I surface to get some air after each attempt. Finally, I see my sights on what looks like an old mini-market. I go back to tell the others. Nora and Sam are waiting for me at the surface. The white-haired woman watches us carefully from a short distance away. We should move a few blocks over to the west. I think there's something interesting. But we'll have to swim, at least to that roof over there. Alright, but Rafiq's gone to look around. I think he's negotiating somewhere with the locals. I should stay here with the bags. Okay, fine.
Me, I want to come.
Alright, but you'll have to swim, buddy. Hesitation crosses his face in a fleeting flash. The ocean made him suffer so much during the crossing, this would be a good opportunity to reconcile them. I stop myself from bursting with joy when he jumps into the water to join me, swimming clumsily. Not bad for a child of the desert, but at that speed we won't get there before tomorrow.
It's hard. There's waves.
There are. Here, grab on here. Keep your head out of the water. Nowhere throws us a net. Don't forget that, to bring back your plunder. With Sam climbing to my bag, I cross the 50 meters which separates us from the closest roof. I get my breath back, then we set up a few dozen meters further, on the ruins of a stove tower clearly dating from medieval times. The structure scarcely emerges above the water. Sometimes a wave submerges it almost completely. Jeez, okay. I need some water. Drinking ASMR. It should be alright for Sam. The mini market is just underneath.
What's a mini market?
It's a kind of little supermarket.
A supermarket?
A place where you find a merchant who sells a bit of everything, you know?
Oh, okay. A super merchant?
Yes, that's it. Right. I'm going. Be careful and mind you don't get nipped. A few big crabs are roaming over the old stones. Their scarlet pincers are formidable. I check our position with a short dive, then I take a few minutes to ready myself. Inhale. Exhale. The bottom is more than 5 meters deep. If I manage to hold on 2 minutes struggling against the current, I'll be doing well. I'll have to progress in stages. I do a few dives to scout things out. I save some time on the descent by guiding myself down the tower wall. I quickly spot a few interesting objects. I'm going to bring you some things, Sam. Be ready.
Okay, I'm ready. Daddy?
Yes?
How do you get yourself pointing down when you go down?
At the start, we call that a duck dive. It's a movement to go head down without using too much energy. Looks like how ducks dive. He looks at me with round eyes. I realize he's never seen a duck. It's a bird that swims underwater.
Oh, yes. Do you think there are some left somewhere?
Yes, I'm sure. Migrant birds were the first to suffer from the brutality of the climate change, but even the non-domestic ducks weren't really wild anymore in the lands where I lived. They'd usually migrate from one protected nature reserve to another once or twice a year. Then one year, there was an uncontrollable virus To stop it spreading, they killed all the ducks. Oh,
The ones left are far away?
yes, pretty far. The haul is good. I bring up a good quantity of canned food that I hope is still edible, especially the fruits which we sorely lack. I also find some nylon and polyester equipment which we could use. Tents, parkas, waterproof capes, and shoes. Last, I even find a watertight first aid kit almost complete. Ooh, nice. It's a great find. Sam clings to my neck again as we set off in the chaotic currents to rejoin the group. The ebbing tide doesn't make the task easier, but by grasping the walls of the buildings I manage to progress, little by little. I'm not displeased when Rafik pulls Sam, our well-filled net, and me onto dry land. After detaching several blue crabs from my clothes, I slowly get my breath back under the end of afternoon sun. Rafik himself seems to be dancing with impatience. I ask him why. I got to know the locals while you were playing at Frogman. They're impressed by your fishing. They're open to some trading. Something tells me they'll give us crab. Even though I'm not completely reassured, we don't really have any choice. We're starving. And I know Rafik's nobody's fool. Whoa! A wave of hot air laden with sand slaps me in the face and recalls me to reality, dragging me from my memories. The wind's so strong, and now we're forced to shout to hear each other. I'm ready to point to the first adequate shelter. Once again, luck seems to smile on us when I glimpse, through the waves of dust, the outline of a long building, an old hangar or a warehouse. I signal to the company and we hurry toward the building. We circle the building until we find a way in. The structure must be at least 15 meters long by 7 or 8 wide. The huge silos that packed onto it have long since collapsed. The main door is sealed, but we find a side entrance which Rafik manages to force with a few big knocks from his shoulder. The contrast, once inside, is striking. Even the cloud of the debris on the metal roof seems gentle to us in comparison to the roar of the storm. Inaya and Son collapse on the floor as soon as they're through the door. Rafik, do you remember the crabs? A grin sneaks across his face. Yeah, that was a good laugh.
The crabs?
Inaya and Son have got their breath back. They sit on the ground, their backs against the wall. It was a while before we met you. We were still on the coast. Rafik managed to get us invited to supper by the survivors of a flooded village. So, we were told that the coast was dangerous. Yes, they couldn't stay there much longer. The ocean is going to keep rising. And in any case, their resources are very limited. Those people had almost nothing, but that didn't stop them sharing everything they did have with us. We were very lucky, considering the circumstances. Still, it was a long time since you'd danced. Nora. I was surprised. So, did she dance or did... I didn't understand that sentence. We can thank them for giving us that moment to be carefree. I'm taking like the tahouri all the time, kinda.
Mommy is a great dancer.
Yeah, and after Nora's dance, they'd have given us their mothers. What? They had musical instruments and wine. That helps. And the soup was good too. Crab soup. Did they have fresh water? A little. They developed a rudimentary filtration system. I used our resources to improve them. I did what I could to help them. Okay. I guess I'm a tahouri. I even left them most of our fabric stock. I hope it will help them keep their system working a bit longer. What they did have lots of was crabs. Oh yes, the crabs. You even tried to bring some live ones in a bucket of water. Yeah, well, that wasn't a great idea. They didn't last long, the poor things. Yeah, that was a heartbreaker. They even tried to dig through the bottom of the bucket to find some cool. That's right, yes. Poor creatures. You really had to eat them to alleviate their suffering, didn't you? Didn't exactly refuse to eat them either, if I remember right. In any case, that was all thanks to you, Rafiq. It was risky, we were lucky. Nora and Rafiq continued to joke, but I only listened with half an ear. Okay. Sorry about digging for coal has given me an idea. Oh, we're gonna dig? I examined the building floor with renewed interest. After a moment, I discerned a kind of groove in the ground, and after clearing away a thick layer of dust and rubble, I discovered a crudely forged bolted metal plate, complete with 2 handles. Rafiq joins me. Well spotted, Camille. We glance at each other and take position, one each side of the hatch. Unfree. The plate is unwieldy, but we manage to lift it just enough to slide it over and clear the opening. The first thing we find is a thick layer of straw, clearly very old. A strange smell immediately assails my nostrils. I gesture Rafiq to back away. Oh, please don't let us find dead people. What is that? Cereal? Oh, okay. Wheat, maybe? I sniff again. We should ventilate. Help me. Beneath the curious gaze of my companions, I climb onto Rafiq's shoulder to reach a little window, high up. After several bangs on the lintel, it finally yields, letting the sand and burning air rush in and almost making me lose my balance. The screaming of the wind and the deafening thunder of the sand of the sheet metal fill our shelter, but I'd rather that than asphyxiate. Once the room has been aired, I go back to get a handful of grains to examine more closely. Did you find weed? Is it still good? It looks more like barley, in fact. It seems fine. I look at the grains in the palm of my hand. It's hard not to be moved by the beauty of these precious, fragile little pearls. They stored them underground? I nod. It's a very old method, not well known and hard to implement, but I've heard tell that you could preserve cereals for decades this way. Saying that, I think it would be better to wait a few hours for the gas to escape before checking if it's edible. Inaya and someone speak to each other in low voices. Rafiq's already looking for fuel to make a fire, and Nora has begun to set up the camp. Camp Sandstorm. We've set our makeshift camp out of the wind. Inaya and someone are talking in low voices. Sam's woken up on the top storm. Thrilled by our discovery, he can't keep still. Rafiq and Nora are collecting fuel to make a fire. Oh, our resources, oh god. At every camp, I share out our ration as fairly as possible before checking our stock of food, water, and materials. And we need to ration our reserves. They won't be sustainable much longer. I'm gonna end it here for now. Very interesting. I'm already worried. I wonder if each camp is a chapter, but I guess we'll see. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you like the game so far. I'm interested to see where we go, if we get a happy end, if we're gonna lose some people, if we're gonna change narrative. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!